It is a pleasure to be with you tonight. I am an economist. I'm also the founder and president of something called the Chalmers Center. We're a church equipping organization. We equip churches to help the poor all over the world. And I'm just so honored to be here with you tonight. I think very, very highly of alarm. I'm just going to share a few things from our book, When Helping Hurts, that many people have found helpful, because I think the principles in this book are so relevant for alarm's work. You know, many people who work amongst the poor use different kinds of approaches, and the approach that Alarm is using, I believe, is deeply the correct approach. To get us started, imagine you want to give money to help with the rebuilding of Haiti. You begin to conduct research to find the best organization to which you will give your money. How does the organization answer the question, what is poverty? You see, because it's out of the diagnosis of poverty that the organization determines what they will do to alleviate poverty. Think of it this way. When you go to the doctor, the first thing that the doctor does is they diagnose what's wrong with you. And it's out of that diagnosis that the doctor treats you. If we misdiagnose the causes of their poverty, or if we treat symptoms rather than underlying causes, our efforts to help the poor can actually hurt the poor. Good intentions are not enough. It is possible to hurt the poor in the very process of trying to help them. This table here is just trying to illustrate the points I'm trying to make. If we diagnose poverty as being due to a lack of knowledge, our efforts will focus on education. If we think the problem is oppression by powerful people, we're going to work for social justice. If we think the problem is the personal sins of the poor, we're going to focus on evangelism and discipleship. The way that we diagnose the problem determines the solutions that we use to alleviate the problem. We better get the diagnosis of poverty correct. I want to draw particular attention to the last row on this table, a lack of material things. Because most Americans, if you ask them what is poverty, they'll say something like this. It's a lack of food. It's a lack of clothing. It's a lack of shelter. It's a lack of clean water. We tend to define poverty as Americans as a lack of some material thing. And as a result, our efforts to help the poor often focus on providing material resources to them. And there is a place for that. Here's the problem. The story of Western materialism is the wrong story. You can't solve those issues through material resources alone. The story that we are promoting as Western civilization isn't the story to bring healing to ourselves or to the poor. We're not scratching where they're itching. We need a different story. We need God's story. What the Bible teaches is that for each human being, there are four key relationships. Our primary relationship is with God. We are to have an intimate walk with God. Adam and Eve walked with God in the garden. Our relationship with ourselves, our self-image, our self-concept, the Bible says we should see ourselves as just a little lower than the angels, crowned with dignity and worth and capacity as bearers of the image of God. Our relationship with others, we're to love others as much as we love ourselves, a sense of community. And finally, a relationship with creation. There's two dimensions to this. We are to preserve and protect the creation, to conserve it. But we're also to unpack and unfold it through our work. Human beings are wired for work and wired to be able to enjoy the fruit of that work. Folks, this picture right here is meant to be a picture of human flourishing. This is the good life. The good life isn't more stuff. The good life is to live in right relationship, to love properly God, self, others, and the rest of creation. Folks, when we experience these relationships the way that God designed them to be experienced, that's the key point. When we experience these relationships the way that God designed them to be experienced, they're not up for grabs. He ordained it a certain way. When we experience these relationships the way that God intended, it fits right, it feels good. We're square pegs in square holes. This is what we're wired for. This is human flourishing, to live in right relationship. As I said at the beginning, how we diagnose the problem determines the solutions that we use to address the problem. Once we define poverty as being rooted in broken relationships caused by broken individuals and broken systems, that's going to shape everything we're going to do to alleviate poverty. It's something going to be more about lawyers than it is about handouts. talking about, now think what we've just said. Poverty is rooted in broken relationships due to broken individuals and broken systems. Poverty alleviation is about reconciling relationships. How on earth are we going to do this? There's good news. Because Colossians chapter 1 talks about Jesus Christ in the following terms. It says this, for God was pleased to have all his fullness dwell in him, that is in Jesus Christ, and through him to reconcile to himself all things, whether things on earth or things in heaven, by making peace through his blood shed on the cross. To reconcile is to put things into right relationship again. And Jesus Christ is doing this for what? All things. We therefore are God's ambassadors, as though God was making his appeal through us. That Jesus Christ, who's reconciling the entire cosmos, empowers you and me as his ambassadors to go forth to declare his comprehensive reconciliation, his alleviation of poverty as far as the curse is found. And that's where alarm fits in, because what we need are leaders. What we need are leaders who are committed to this. Alarm is developing servant leaders who reconcile relationships to transform communities. Alarm is working along the grain of the universe, because that universe is moving in a direction, the direction that King Jesus is moving it. Folks, Alarm's approach is effective, it's sustainable, it's replicable, it's highly leveraged. It has to be, because it's rooted in the story that Jesus Christ is rewriting on the entire cosmos. Won't you join them? Thank you.